from the time I was maybe 10 or 11, I really, really had no hope for a good life. I thought, I'm never going to get married, because who would marry somebody so disgusting? I mean, I really saw myself as really gross. I mean, gross. There's no other way to put it.
Judi, how did you find Carnivore?
Oh gosh, it's like so many other people. It's been a really, really long journey. I'll try to plow through it and not bore you to death. I've been sick since I was 5. I remember being sick when I was 5, and I'm 60 now. So talking about 55 years of being sick. When I was little, I complained of stomach aches, and my mother took me to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician looked at me and felt my belly, and am I eating okay? And my appetite was okay. So they didn't think anything was wrong with me. So off I went. And so for basically forever, I got no help with this problem. It sounds like I'm feeling sorry for myself, but I really got no help. So, when I would complain about my stomach hurting, my head hurting, my joints hurting, I couldn't sleep. I was very anxious. I was on my own from the time I was a little kid. I started treating myself when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I would literally go to the store and buy like Rolaids and Tums. I didn't know what the hell I had to do. Or if I was at a friend's house and they had some, I don't know, I'd find some Pepto-Bismol in the closet. So I'd take a gulp of that, sneaking it. Just the only person that tried to help me was my grandmother. My grandparents are Polish. They're gone now, but they were wonderful. And there was always Fleet's enemas around. They were all about the Fleet's enema. And so I'd say, oh, my stomach hurts. I'd be like 7 or 8 years old. And she's like, you want to eat an enema? just like, oh, I was like, no, I don't want enema, I'm fine. But that was really the only time I could think of like somebody who was really trying to help me. I mean, I think back now, an enema might have been helpful. It really might have been. But at the time, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And, as far as like the symptoms, besides just basic anxiety and insomnia, just these stomach aches, bloating, gas, sometimes constipation, sometimes horrible diarrhea. Basically, from the time I can remember, every time I ate, I got a stomach ache. So, just meal times became like kind of horrible experiences. And I at the time, I kind of fell in love with ballet and was dancing. By the time I was about 12, I was there every day, but it really, really, it kept me from really putting my all into dance, because basically I had a stomach ache all the time. It's hard to like stand up straight, keep your stomach in. And so basically, my stomach was out. My ballet teacher was like, pull your stomach in, stand up straight, pull your stomach in. And I was like, I can't. I had to explain to her, like, I can't pull it in. It's too painful. Or I'd say, don't feel well. And so she let me sit out, and I skipped a lot of classes. And, not to mention, oh gosh, Dave, when I realized I was doing this interview, it's like, I have to talk about like things that are humiliating, that are embarrassing. So I'm just going to do it. And it's humiliating to fart in ballet class, especially when you're sick. I mean, everybody farts, but when you're sick, it's wretched. So it was just humiliating. And so again, like it just kept me from, putting my all in. And I would just run to the bathroom, run back in. And at the time, my knees started giving me a lot of trouble. By the time I was like 12, 13, my knees were giving me, so I would say, oh, my knees hurt. So she'd say, okay, lay down, sit down. And she'd give me, an ice pack for my knees. So that's kind of my adolescence. By the time I was like maybe 12, 13, 14, I was also very depressed. It's hard for me to disconnect like depression and gut issues and, dysfunctional family stuff and, my own codependency. It's really hard to disconnect them because they're all definitely connected. And so it wasn't wrong for my mom to put me in counseling when I was 14 because I was a very disturbed little kid. But there wasn't any way to address, we didn't know what was wrong with my gut. And really, like I said, nobody was really addressing it. And so really counseling didn't really help. And the other thing that I want to express is that from the time I was maybe 10 or 11, I really had no hope for a good life. I thought I'm never going to get married because who would marry somebody so disgusting? I really saw myself as really gross. Gross. There's no other way to put it. So I just didn't have a lot of hope. I wasn't going to be a ballerina. So that was obviously made me sad. I didn't have a lot of friends. So social stuff, ever having a boyfriend, like that wasn't going to happen. I didn't even, couldn't leave the house because I was sick all the time. And so clinical depression just became kind of a way of life. Back then, they didn't really treat teenagers. I think they do now. I don't really know. But when I was 17, I put myself in counseling. I had quit ballet because just trying to dance with, and I love dance. I loved it. Any kind of dance, I would do it. But I finally quit because it just was too hard managing my physical illness and this art that just takes total devotion and total focus. I just wasn't focused. And I think my dance teachers thought, you just can't pay attention. You just can't. And I couldn't pay attention. So I took myself into counseling. And the thing about the whole counseling model is that, I think it's great. I've loved the counseling that I've had over the years. It's been extremely helpful, but it never fixed my gut issue. And so, I didn't really know what else to do. I ended up, going to university, UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina, where I live, and took some trips up to the emergency department with terrible stomach aches. I thought it was just because I was drinking beer. It wasn't because all the kids were drinking beer, and I wasn't drinking a lot of beer, but I know now that it's got gluten and it's deadly for me. But anyway, took myself up to the emergency department many times, saw a GI specialist. He had no answers for me whatsoever. And I would say, well, I also have to pee all the time. I said, I think my intestines are pressing on my bladder. And he would just look at me and like, what are you talking about? You're like, you're crazy. Like he just couldn't wrap his brain around the idea that your bowels would press on your bladder. To me, it makes perfect sense. It's all in that same little department, but, just not, and I'm not saying he didn't take me seriously, but no answers for any issues. So just a matter of getting through school. I was in nursing school, which was real demanding. And, I got through it, but, even sitting in class was just near impossible. The other thing is that, it just made me really bitchy. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't really hang out with people. I went and studied with people because I was a pretty good student, made good grades. I wanted to be a good nurse. So it was just, that was university. When I got out of school and did, start working at Duke, Hospital, which was a great place to work for a new nurse. It's a great place. I met a really sweet guy. I did. I didn't date. I barely dated, but I met a really, really sweet guy. And I'm now married to him for like 35 years. But I met this real sweet, very gentle soul. And he was the first person, and he's a neurologist. He's a brain doctor, but he was the first person with all these other doctors I had seen over the years. I even saw a GI specialist at Duke University, major medical school, medical center, right? Best top GI, top everything, right? We did the first heart transplant at Duke when I was there. I mean, top. No answers whatsoever. Her thought was you're just a little neurotic about the whole thing. You just need to chill out, just let your body, be normal. And, barium enema, flexible sigmoidoscopy showed nothing. I mean, I didn't have anything that they could point to and say, look, it's Crohn's, let's get you on some medicine. So I was just like a crazy person. But it was my husband who said, have you ever considered that you're allergic to milk, that there might be a problem with lactose? And I said, nope, never. I never considered it. And he says, why don't you get off milk? And I said, okay. And that did help a little bit. It did, because definitely lactose intolerant did help a little bit. And, just from then on, we got married and we had kids. And so over the years, what I've tried, I have tried everything. I kind of made a list of all the things, because we're talking about 30, 50 years, if you count all the antacids and crazy stuff I did when I was a kid. I could just kind of go down the list of all the things I tried. Metamucil, other fibers, antidepressants, headache medications, exercise because I had such low energy, more therapy, more medications for therapy. Then when I was probably about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years, I stopped gluten because I that's the problem. It's gluten, right? Because everybody's stopping gluten. I'm like, okay. Again, seemed to help a little bit. And I've never gone back to gluten. Then somebody sent me to a nutritionist and they had me stop all the high FODMAP. So the FODMAP diet. So, the broccoli and the cauliflower and the pistachios and, of course, dairy product, milk. So there was the FODMAPs. So took those all off. So as you can see, what was happening was my list of foods I was eating was becoming smaller and smaller. And then specific carbohydrate diet. I tried that about 8 years ago. Layered on top of the FODMAP diet. So again, my list of foods is going down. I also stopped eating red meat and chicken because the times I would eat them, because there seemed to be gastroparesis, where your stomach's not emptying. And so 2 days later, I'd still be belching the steak I ate. So off goes the red meat. Can't eat red meat. Can't digest it. Then I quit chicken because it seemed to sit in my stomach. So I was basically down to eating soft lettuce, like the butter lettuce, bib lettuce, those soft lettuces, almonds and walnuts I was still eating, but not any of the other nuts. Sometimes I would eat some gluten-free crackers because they seemed to do okay. Gluten-free pretzels seemed to do okay. Then there was trying peppermint. And then I saw an herbalist where you send off poop. You spend $400 or $500 to send off this poop, and they look at your microbiome and they're like, oh my goodness, your microbiome is pretty good. So, probiotics were really not going to be. And then, they put me on I had a counter full. I must have spent $700 on all these herbal supplements. Oregano, because they said my stomach acid was low. Well, duh. I've been taking antacids since I was 7 years old. I bet it's low. Although I drank a lot of coffee, so I was surprised my acid was so low. So a lot of money from the herbalist. I had a whole counter full of herbs, oregano. To this day, not a fan of oregano. More antidepressants, because the idea being like, I would go to a doctor and they would say, well, there's nothing wrong with you, so you need therapy. And I mean, I do seem like I need therapy. I'm a little edgy. I'm a little nervous and I feel really bad. Then I bought a bunch of enzymes because that was going to be the answer. Then I did colonics, because colonics was supposed to be the helpful thing, which, okay, whatever. Then I did EMDR because that was supposed to settle down my whole system and get rid of the trauma from when I was 5 or whatever. It's a great experience to fix the gut. And then because I have chronic diarrhea and I have chronic constipation. I mean, it's either one or the other. And so a doctor put me on Linzess because somebody said, oh, Linzess is so great. Well, Linzess makes you poop all the time, like all the time. I was pooping like 10, 12 times a day. And so then another doctor said, oh, that's a little bit rough. Let's try the Amitiza. Amitiza's no better. I'm driving around town, I think it was like 2 years ago, driving around town with this Amitiza on board. And I'm like stopping at Barnes and Noble and running back to the bathroom and driving 5 minutes and running into McDonald's to the bathroom, running into Hardee's to the bathroom. I couldn't and then running inside because I changed clothes. Yeah. So that was my Amitiza experience. So much for being gentler than Linzess. So after that, I just sort of managed myself with the constipation and the diarrhea. I take medicine and the medicine and the medicine and the medicine, back and forth, and all depending on how I was doing. Oh, how about the coffee enemas? The coffee enemas. Yeah, really terrific. Good experience, but didn't fix anything. It's supposed to fix everything. I believed it. Oh, then there was intermittent fasting. Okay, intermittent fasting, because that was supposed to, this seemed really reasonable, because if you rest your gut and then you eat and then you rest your gut, this just seemed like a great idea. It didn't really help, except when I was fasting. That I did notice is that when I don't eat, I feel pretty good. So I was like, if I could just stay fasting, that'd be pretty good. Okay, then there was yoga, and I tried Traeger massage, which is a special kind of massage to release trauma, release pain. There goes another $700. That's an interesting experience. It was an interesting experience. So really, by the time I'm working up my way up to last spring, basically the way I'm managing is protein drinks, which I now know are crappy. But at least I was getting protein. I was getting a good, 100 grams of protein a day. So at least I wasn't going to die, end up in the hospital or something. So I was getting a lot of protein, not a lot of calories, because I did the sugar-free ones because I knew sugar wasn't going to be a great thing. So basically kind of living on those with sometimes being able to eat some meals. But it was also so much management because if my husband wanted to go out to eat, it always had to be conditional. We'll see how I feel. So he'd call me at 4, how you're feeling? Oh, crappy. So to say that this was life limiting, just putting it mildly, I was basically laying on the couch with my belly out. Really, I've taken pictures of myself. I won't do that to you with a picture of myself. But basically, I'm pretty thin. I'm a pretty thin woman and this huge belly. And so basically all I could do was just kind of lay on my side, maybe take some anti-anxiety medicine, because a lot of times my belly was so distended, it came up to my diaphragm. I couldn't breathe. And so how to explain to people, I can't breathe. I go to the doctor, I can't breathe. Why can't you breathe? What's wrong with your stomach? When I was getting that Amitiza about 2 years ago, I saw this GI person where we are in North Carolina now. It's in my belly. belly is like humongous. I look like I'm 9 months pregnant. And he leans over and he goes, does it hurt? He kind of touches my stomach real gingerly. Does it hurt? I'm like, yeah, it does hurt. Thank you. And so I started to describe my symptoms. And after about 5 minutes, and you can tell I've got a big story here, he finally's like, what's your worst symptom? He can't hear it all. He can't hear the whole story. He can't hear the whole picture. He's like, what's your worst symptom? And I'm like, I don't know, constipation. So that's what he gave me the Amitiza. That was a disaster. But anyway, so that's been I'm married to a doctor. I'm not like against modern medicine or conventional medicine. It's just I've not found them to be helpful because they don't really have any answers. So yeah, basically living on these protein drinks. If we had to travel, maybe to go see family, what have you, it required not eating all day. It might require not eating for like 2 days because I had to just get where I could travel because airplane travel was horrendous. And if we went overseas, basically last time we went overseas, which was in 1989. No, 1989. That's when I got married. 2019. It was our 30th anniversary trip, and it was miserable. Flying is a miserable experience. We tried maybe first class will help. Not really. You're still in that airplane with all that pressure in your gut. So all this, Dave, takes me up to this last spring, and I have to tell you, I would recommend anybody who's going to go on a carnivore journey for some severe health problems, get yourself a calendar. This has been so helpful. My husband, when I decided to do carnivore, or let me back up. So around May 13th, I call it hitting bottom. Like my life sucks. I will never have a good life. We're expecting a first grandchild soon. I don't know if I'll be able to be helpful to my daughter with this baby. I don't know if I'll ever do anything besides lay on a couch all afternoon and evening and not be able to travel. Really hit bottom. And it wasn't like a depression. It didn't feel like depression. It was like, I have this great life. I have this wonderful life with these 2 wonderful adult children, a wonderful son-in-law. I've got these wonderful dogs here, and my husband who's so kind and gentle. And so it's not like I'm depressed or hate my life. It's just I have no hope that things are ever going to improve. So that's kind of where I was. And basically for the next couple of weeks, just drinking protein drinks. And then somewhere around the 21st or 22nd of May, I've been going to YouTube and watch stuff about IBS. And I happened on Rebecca Heichman's video. I'd never heard of anybody with I was like, you get it. This is it. You get it. This is me. A little bit different. Her experience is a little bit different. She's younger. Mine was more like a long-term chronic thing. But to be not believed, to be accused of being crazy. And I bought her book. Immediately, I sent away from Amazon, immediately. I read her book in 2 days, and I just would sit and it was a hard read. It was a hard read because I identified so much with not being believed and being so sick and trying everything. She was a health hacker. I've always been a health hacker. Look what I've done. I tried vegan. I tried all kinds of stuff. I've always been one to try all kinds of wacko weird stuff. Just trying different ingredients, making bagels out of almond flour. This is just what I've done because I tried keto in the past. And so after reading her book, I didn't tell anybody. I just thought somebody's going to think I'm crazy. So the only person I told was my husband. I said, I know this sounds insane, but I'm going to do this carnivore thing. We're going to do it for 30 days. And I was like, this is a conventional doctor. Okay. Not a young one either. We're not young. And he's very traditional, and he treats by he works in a major medical center. I mean, it's not like out there on his own experimenting. But anyway, he said, I think that's a great idea. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, but I need to know, I need you to like tell me how you're doing day by day. And that's where we came up with the idea of doing this calendar. So basically, I started Carnivore on the 26th. And I started just making a note on each day, like how I was doing. And so by the end of even the first week, what I would describe, I'm a nurse. Okay, so scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? If I was 10s all the weeks before, which pretty much what I was, just drinking these stupid protein drinks or fasting, by the end of the first week, like I'm down to a 5. 1 week. And then I sort of hung out right there around like 4s and 5s. And then I thought, well, maybe I need to ditch all the cheese because I'm probably eating too much cheese and that's causing problems. So I ditched the cheese, and that helped a little bit, but not much. And then by the end of mid to late June, I decided to get a coach because I felt like by this time I knew that I was on the right track, but just to experiment by myself, I'm just like shooting in the dark here. I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. I didn't really want to play around with it anymore. And so I just, reached out on Instagram to maybe 4 or 5 different coaches. And the one that said some were kind of busy because a lot of them are busy, but Dr. Lisa Wiederman took me on really fast. And I'm so glad because she's been extraordinary. I probably reached out to her, saw her on the 30th of June. No big surprise. On our first session, she puts me on the lion diet. I'm like, I knew it. I knew you were going to put me on the lion diet. I don't want to be on a lion diet. But she's like, yes, just do it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Sure. Just 2 weeks. I don't think so. So anyway, I've done, I did about 6 weeks of lion. As of last week, we added butter. So now I've got ruminant meat and butter. So we're going to do it real slowly. I have I'm not all well. I've got 55-year damage to recover from. But as far as like going back to how I was eating before, there's no way. I don't miss. What's so funny is that when I was, kept taking away all these foods, like, I can't eat this, and I can't eat this, and I can't eat this, I felt so sorry for myself. And now, once I got over the fact that I was going to be doing the lion diet, I don't really feel sorry for myself. It was interesting, because I was one to say I can't eat red meat, but when I started Carnivore, I started with like little tiny steaks, little tiny burgers, and I was still doing a little bit of the protein drinks for that last week or so, just kind of. And I had a lot of medications that I had to wean off of, so like the fiber and lots of medications. So that took me probably a month to wean off all that medication. I still have the anti-anxieties because if I do, basically the anxiety was associated with like not being able to breathe. So I rarely have to take that anymore. Like the fact that I felt so deprived because I had such a small menu. Now I'm just having beef and butter, and I don't feel sorry for myself. Like I only eat twice a day. And I just love it. Like today I had like a filet mignon and a little burger because I was supposed to have 10 ounces and 4 tablespoons of butter. So I do. That's exactly what I do. And I don't cheat. Like I don't cheat at all. Oh, the other thing that was shocking was that she had me get off all the coffee, which was it probably took me about 3 weeks to get off coffee. I was so addicted to it. So just terrible headaches. It took me about 3 weeks, but now I don't miss it. I feel like I'm less anxious. I can sleep better. I'm less edgy. So I don't miss the coffee at all. I miss the routine. I miss going out with friends for coffee, but I don't miss it. So I don't really miss it.
Yeah. So how has your GI been in the last few months?
It's so much better. I mean, for Bill and I to start seeing it, like not get so huge, it would get a little bit, it's like, well, it only looks like 5 months pregnant. Oh, now it only looks like 3 months pregnant because I'm thin. I'm really thin. It should be flat because I don't weigh very much. And we just started seeing it like get better and better and better. It's still tight. It's still bloated, but it's not uncomfortable. Now, I did go through, a lot of people start carnivore have like the diarrhea. I did have that for probably 5 weeks. I didn't care. It was like, it's out of my body. I just was like embracing the diarrhea. It just was like embracing it because I just felt like I was just flushing out this bad stuff out of my body. But yeah, I would say my gut is 75% better overall. And the hard part now I have expectations about wanting other things to get better because I watch the YouTube and I hear other people talking about like joint pain. I'm like, well, I want my joint pain to go away. So that's hopefully to come.
Yeah. Have you noticed anything else change in the time you've been doing it?
Yeah. I mean, my husband says my skin looks really good. I definitely have more energy. I do. I've always, since being a dancer, I've always been one to exercise, really never let go of that. Even during COVID, I was walking every day. I've noticed that my muscles are getting more sculpted. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, I start to see like different definition in my muscles and in my quads and calves. Like, oh my gosh, I've got these cuts. I cut in my glute. I was like, this is wild. And I know it's just from the red meat. I know it is because that's been just a fun, extra. I didn't really expect to get like cuts in my delts and
Yeah, it's really weird, right? Because I'm speaking for myself here, but I guess it's similar for you. Gone through my whole life not having anything like that, and then all of a sudden for it just to happen, it was just so strange.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I still just go to the same exercise classes I've gone to. I go to Pure Barre, which is kind of a combination of ballet, yoga, Pilates, kind of it's a pretty intense workout. But I just see like, oh my gosh, I can start to see these muscles that are just getting more carved, even though I'm not doing any more than I was doing before. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sleeping better because my gut is not so humongous and in the way. Before I started a whole carnivore thing, I would go to the chiropractor. And a lot of times you'd have to use the maternity pillow. It's like a pillow you lay on for this protruding belly. Because I said, well, I can't. She want to adjust me. I was like, well, I can't lay on my stomach. She said, well, let's put you on the maternity pillow. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's just, but she's been wonderful and I didn't tell her what I was doing for a long time, but she's been really supportive and has been wanting to know my progress as I've gone along. It's been fun to tell her. I haven't told very many people because the few people I've told, you get the reactions. What about your cholesterol? Isn't that a state of starvation? I mean, just a lot of comments that like, I just don't want them. I don't want comments. I don't really want to tell very many people at this point. I'd rather just let my experience speak for itself. If anybody care, if they say, well, we really want to know what you're doing. I mean, of course I would tell them, but mostly I would just tell people I'm just trying something new. I don't really want to talk about it. It's just not as controversial. And so I just haven't told many people. My husband is completely amazed. He is amazed. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. So, do you think the coffee was a contributing factor to the GI issues you were having?
No. No, I don't. I'm really glad I got off of it, because I think for me, it was bad on my nerves, because I was already so edgy from the pain. I'm glad I'm off of it. It was really hard to get off. I honestly think that it was the vegetables and the fiber that was just in my gut, probably SIBO, probably leaky gut, and it was in there. It was just fermenting. And so for me, the miracle has been that you don't need vegetables. You don't need fiber. And that was what was causing I'm convinced of it, that I will never eat vegetables. I will never mess with fruit. I have no need for it. I have no need for fruit or vegetables. It took me a while to get off all the fiber and other supplements and everything. But I mean, I'm glad I'm off the coffee. Honestly, with my stomach acid being so low, I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm glad I'm off of it, though.
Yeah. So, is this it for you? This is the future?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would love, I would love to be able to eat more, like what I was eating before I started with Dr. Lisa. I love fish. I love cheese. I love, heavy cream. I was making like carnivore ice cream with like egg yolks and heavy cream, and just enjoying that every night after dinner. So I'd love to go back to being able to have that. I love eggs. I'd like to put like a little piece of chicken. But for sure, carnivore will be it. Even though I anticipate getting completely well, I don't know how long it'll take. I don't think, I'll get to the point where like, okay, now you can eat vegetables. Now you can eat bread. I think my body is set up for just intolerance of these things. I mean, I don't know. I'm one of those canary in the coal mine. My body has been sensitive. Why did my body start rebelling and hurting when I was 5? I mean, my sister was in the same dysfunctional family. She didn't have any physical problems. She was not sick. We did our little teenage binges together of cookies and ice cream and all kinds of crap, tab soda. And I was the one with the belly ache. She ate 3 times what I ate. She could eat like 7 bowls of ice cream. I could like manage 3 and be just dying. So I think my body, just for whatever reason, has just been super sensitive to these. So I'm in it for life. This is just the beginning. I just anticipate, like, well, I'd love for my joint pain to go away. I've got headaches. I've got extreme dry eye, which is an inflammatory condition that's not gotten better with different prescriptions. I'd love for that to get better. I mean, I'd love to be able to sleep better, for the anxiety to lessen. So this is just the beginning of my journey. I'm so glad I saw one of your YouTube videos recently, and you were saying like, be on, let me interview. You don't have to be like completely well and have this wonderful story. Like, it's okay if you're just starting. I was like, oh, good, because this is just the beginning. I'm barely into it.
Oh. So has your husband considered joining you?
No, and here's the thing. He's been married to a health hacker for 35 years. I mean, if he followed me down every rabbit trail of health hacking and different things, colonics, and come on, Bill, let's do coffee enemas tonight. He just hasn't been with me on these. Let's make bread out of almond flour. I'm just like, no, thank you. So he's fully supportive in terms of like, actually he's having fun because like I would only go to a seafood restaurant because that's all I could eat was basically salad and maybe green beans and a carrot and seafood. And so now we've been going out to some steakhouses and burger joints. So he's enjoying kind of opening up our restaurant availability. So, and I know we have a vacation planned in January, and it's just going to be so much better. I mean, our last few vacations have just been, I mean, they're just not easy. He mainly has to do things by himself, and I have to stay in the room. And so I think things are going to be just so much better for us. But will he follow me down this rabbit hole? It's not a rabbit hole. Some of my other ones probably were. This is not a rabbit hole. This is a way of life. I mean, it's becoming a way of life. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah. So what advice would you give someone else wanting to start Carnivore?
That's a really good question. A few people that I have talked to about it, just basically, I mean, you have to just be a little bit desperate. You just have to be a little bit willing to try something just for 30 days. Just try it for 30 days. Mark on your calendar. I'm just going to do this for 30 days and then go back and have an ice cream sundae or whatever I want, on a burger with fries, in 30 days. Like it won't, but I don't know. I think for me, it was easy because I was so desperate. I think it does. As I hear other people who have had success, I hear a certain measure of desperation. Like, this is not just like, we're not doing this because it might be fun, or let's just see what it would be like to like only eat eggs for a week. This has to be something that you do because you want to have a better life, that you don't want to, stay so depressed and, anticipating a grandchild and not knowing whether you're going to be able to play with her and travel for her just broke my heart. And now she's due in like 2 weeks, and I'm going to hop on an airplane and go see her. And I'm going to hop on an airplane anytime my daughter wants me to come up and see her, because I can. Like, I can travel. Making beef jerky now. Like, I'm learning to do things because I found last time I traveled, like, burgers in airports are kind of horrible. So I'm just learning like how to make this a real lifestyle. So making beef jerky was just like, I thought it was like oh my God, how long is beef jerky? It's just so easy. Just do it. Bought the stupid little dehydrator for $100 and in it goes, and till it's dry. And it's the homemade stuff is just delicious. So just making this a real way of life and knowing that I'm going to be able to be there for my daughter, my granddaughter, my son, who lives a few hours away, being able to, visit him more, enjoy these, years with my husband. It's just, there's not a whole lot of ways to describe it. I feel like, when I saw that YouTube video of Rebecca Heischman, I knew, I mean, I'm a Christian, and I just was like, okay, God, okay, that's the direction I need to go in. I'll go in. And all the other experiences and therapy, everything I've done, like, it's all okay. It was all for good. Like, I don't regret going to therapy. I mean, my therapist and I we're kind of like weaning off because I don't really need her anymore because I'm doing quite well. I mean, basically, a lot of the therapy sessions were just like how to get through the day with just feeling so bad, how not to off myself that day because I'm so miserable, And I know people get really desperate and really, really upset. But if that desperation can drive a person to have the willingness to do this thing, I say do it. Just do it. And do it wrong. I mean, do it wrong. Just experiment. And maybe you have a coach who'll tell you to do the lion diet. That is real simple. You can't do it wrong. You just eat meat. And I'm so grateful for that simplicity that gave me because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah. So, Judi, do you have any way of reaching out to you if people want to get in contact? Do you have any social media or anything? Is it okay if I link your email below?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sure.
Of course. Absolutely.
Sure.
Be happy to have people reach out, answer questions, or be of support in any way. Just in terms of just, give it a whirl, give it a try.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Judi. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it.